It is a great honor to introduce the recipient of the Guardian of Israel Award. For many years, I would go to Israel at the times of the year when tourism was down a lot, when nothing much was happening, January, February. And I remember staying mostly at the King David Hotel and walking into the dining room and seeing one other person in that big dining room. And that person was Newt Gingrich. Most of America became aware of Newt Gingrich in 1994 when, as Speaker of the House, he was the architect of the Contract for America. His leadership resulted in welfare reform, the first balanced budget in a decade, and the first federal tax cut in 16 years. He served in Congress from 1978 through 1999. Mr. Gingrich has also written 26 books, including 14 New York Times bestsellers. Speaker Gingrich is amongst the world's greatest, staunchest defenders of Israel, calling it, quote, a democracy and bold beacon of historic truth in a dangerous world. He is resolute in his stance that the United States has moral, historic, and practical reasons to ally with and defend Israel. When Newt was named Time Magazine's Man of the Year in 1995, it called him an exceptional leader. We couldn't agree more.
And now for another accent to hit this stage. Chachamim Rabbanim. Newt Gingrich was a warrior of the Reagan Revolution. Mr. Gingrich is credited with reviving the US economy with policy formulation that created 11 million US jobs, paid off $400 billion in national debt. As you've heard, he reformed the welfare system and encouraged more Americans than ever before to invest domestically within the United States. Suffice to say that currently, the years of 1992 to 2000 are known as the Clinton period. History might well remember those years more appropriately as the Gingrich era. As a man who learned how to reach across the aisle, he embraced bipartisan politics and learned to make his enemies his friends. But none so more has he been the exemplar of the world values, of an American, of a person seeking to stand by the democracy that we know and we love as Israel. Please welcome to the stage Newt Gingrich.
Watch the press and the photographers for 1 second. Make them happy. Yeah. There you go. Thank you, Newt. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you all very much, Michael. And Robert, thank you for that. And Shmuley, thank you for everything you're doing and for being here tonight and for the great capacity you have as an orator and as a communicator. I'm delighted to be back once again with Sheldon Adelson, who is such a remarkable figure in his own right in 100 different ways, and whose love for both America and Israel are, I think, beyond question. I also want to thank Michael Fromm for having organized such an extraordinary effort. Now, having listened to several of my good friends who are orators and who have given great talks. I want to say first that this is a great honor, but that I want to talk to you, frankly, with a heavy heart. Because as I listened to everybody tonight, I felt that I owe you my deepest and my most honest belief. I think it is an objective reality that at the present time we are losing. We are losing to European anti-Semitism. We're losing here at home to American anti-Semitism. We are losing to a worldwide effort to isolate and discredit Israel. We are losing to the lie of a peace process involving Hamas when the leaders of Hamas say not a single Jew will remain. The very fact that we don't have the nerve to say, this isn't a peace process. This is a diplomatic charade for murderers, terrorists, thugs, genocidal maniacs. We are losing to the inexorable Iranian march to nuclear weapons, the inexorable Iranian march to domination in the region. Look at the balance of power in 2000 and look at the balance of power today in that region. This is a catastrophe, and we lie to ourselves. There's not going to be any snapback. The very concept of a snapback involves such a fundamental delusion about reality that the people who suggest it should frankly be hospitalized. It's inconceivable that we're going to give Iran $150 billion with which to cleverly set up contracts to ensure that there is no possibility of a snapback. This is just all a lie. And we live in the era when it is easier to tolerate the lie than it is to insist on the truth. And all of us in this room participate. Don't listen, I'm not here to applaud you. I'm here to tell you, because I listen sincerely and I believe sincerely, every person in this room participates. We tolerate the lie. We go to the cocktail party. We pretend it's okay. Many of you give money to faculty who are vicious anti-Semites and whose universities are dedicated to destroying you. Now, if you can't at least say to the president of your alumni association, there is zero chance I'm going to support anything you're doing as long as you hire anti-Semites and you have students on your campus who are organizing anti-Semitic activities, why would you think you're going to start winning? What we actually need is to go back to the two great lessons about how to fight this kind of a fight. The origins of the United States and the origins of the State of Israel. And I want to propose three specific, tough principles that I believe both those founding generations will tell you was essential to their survival. First, we need intolerance. Let me repeat that. We need intolerance. When we have a vicious, totally dishonest Hamas spokesman, we should be utterly, totally intolerant of that person. When we have a faculty member who is an apologist for ISIS, we should demand their firing. And we should be prepared to stand up and when the United Nations is totally, utterly, morally corrupt, we should have the courage to stand there and say so and demand its reform. Second, we need the political, cultural equivalent of battlefield courage. We need the courage to confront our enemies. We need the courage to confront those who are confused. We need a willingness to stand firm and say there are certain, when the President of the United States says that there was this random action in Paris, the following day there should have been 100,000 people in front of the White House saying, quit lying about the people who are killing us. And look, you have an opportunity. We have at least two of our candidates sitting here tonight, maybe one or two more I haven't met. I'm not sure if Pataki came in the back. But you've got at least two potential presidential candidates. You have an opportunity in both parties to say, tell the truth, stand up and fight or expect us to actively oppose you as a candidate, period. Third, and as somebody who lived this out for a long time, first as a Reagan Republican in the 70s and early 80s, and then as a person who waged a 16-year campaign to create a majority in the House, let me just tell you, we need to accept, and this is very hard in a free society, and it is very hard for normal people. We need to accept the reality that we are going to be fighting every day if we are determined to win. The fact is, George Washington went into the field for 8 years and spent 2 weeks at Mount Vernon. That is what it takes. If you go back and look at the history of the founders of Israel, they were in conflict, they were under threat, their lives were at risk day after day after day. Freedom is an endurance contest because those who are evil never stop, and those who would favor truth and honesty have to be prepared to fight at least as hard as those who are evil, and that's hard. Let me say to you finally, and I hope that I am clear enough without being offensive, but I want to be very clear. We have to decide whether never again is a slogan or a policy. Today it's a slogan. People get together, they say it, they buy ads, they make speeches, they go on TV. It's terrific. Never again as a policy would crush Hamas. It would indicate unequivocally that there are no deals with the Iranian dictatorship because it is a totally dishonest theocratic regime. Never again as a policy would say to every European state, we are holding you accountable every time there's an anti-Semitic act, and we're going to shame you into getting rid of the people and changing the laws until the anti-Semites are kicked out of Europe, because the truth is they are incompatible with our civilization. There was a long alliance between Nazis and Islamic supremacists, and we shouldn't be surprised that there are still people in Europe quite comfortable with the idea that ISIS is misunderstood. Well, we have to have the courage to make clear that we understand and that we don't have friends who are confused. And we have to educate them, and then frankly, we have to have the same courage here at home. I believe we are at a pivotal turning point. I don't think you can rely on any politician in either party. I think you have to mobilize the American people, you have to win the intellectual argument, and you have to be prepared to win it every single day until finally we are truly in a world in which people can live at peace. Thank you, and God bless you.